Test results from the Noguchi Memorial Center for Medical Research have ruled out meningitis as the cause of the mysterious death at the Kumasi Academy in the Ashanti region. 4 students have so far died from the strange ailment, with many more hospitalized. The 4th student died on Tuesday as parents and guardians stormed the school to withdraw the awards. They were, however, prevented from doing so by police officers who had been deployed there. The authorities have meanwhile agreed to shut down the school, and Joy News is learning in the last hour that antibiotics are being administered to the students against a possible bacteria infection. The death of the 4th student Tuesday morning prompted an emergency stakeholder meeting as parents rushed in seeking to withdraw the awards. Large crowds trooped outside to catch a glimpse of the students who were rushed to the hospital. A second meeting with parents and students was interrupted for about half an hour after 2 students collapsed in the latest incident. Some parents accused school authorities of suppressing information on the situation.
The last time that it happened, they told us in a PTA meeting that they have immunized them, but they didn't. And this time too, they have said the same thing again, and we don't know the cause. But since then, they are not trying to detect it, but they want to immunize them. But we are still exercising patience to wait till Thursday. If Thursday comes and nothing happens again, then I will draw my sons from here.
So how do you feel as a parent, knowing very well that you have your children here, some wars here, and then 4 of them have died over the last 1 week? How do you feel over this?
I'm very panicking, and fear has captured me. Even when I came here last Saturday to inquire about this, but because of their adversary, they said things have been put in place, and I went back. And today too, I saw 2 people carried away to hospital. The thing is still here. The children are still suffering, but they are postponing things today and next day. So we want them to take action now.
But it seems you don't believe the arrangements are being put in place. The authorities are saying that now the World Health Organization have brought some drugs. We are going to administer on the children. So as parents, you have to be patient. Just relax, go home whilst the authorities work on the students. How come you seems not to be, in tandem with this kind of arrangement?
Because of what happened last time. About 7 months ago, the people were crying and rushing out. Even they caused demonstration, and they put fear in them that if they voice it out, they will be sacked. And because of that, they keep mute. And today too, the same thing is happening. How can we trust them?
So how many kids or children do you have in this school?
My own 2 sons are here. One is in final year and one has just come to Form 1. And my family members, they are 5. So in my family, we are 7 here. And I've taught more than 200 people here at the primary level. They are all here. So when I come here, I can visit about 200 and over. I do trust them, but I want them to take the action now. If they are taking things away, many people will die. Many people, even today in front of us, 2 people. So they should do something now, not tomorrow and the next and the next. They should do it now.
Right, so the two people she was referring to, they didn't die. Apparently, there was just one death of a female. Now, it took officials led by the Ashanti Regional Minister Samuel Mensah had a tough time convincing the parents not to take their wards home. He says the school will be closed down indefinitely if the students are giving antibiotics treatment to deal with what he describes as a security threat.
Initially, there were several misgivings and people had brainwashed them, take your students out of the school and those things. But when we explained to them that now they are going to be doing those for 3 days, and after the 3-day period, the decision will be taken for the students to go home, while the Ghana service team also conduct full-scale investigation into the causes of what is happening at Kumasi Academy.
Honorable, this will be probably the next question as he changes.
Well, the treatment comes as tests run at the Noguchi Center on 3 victims, or the 3 deaths ruled out viral hemorrhagic fever, including meningitis. Officials hope the treatment will help stem further transmission as further tests and surveillance continue. Regional Health Director Emmanuel Tinkra explains the importance of chemoprophylaxis.
We've recorded 27 cases with 4 deaths. That means that the case fatality is unacceptably high. We've done a series of investigations, blood investigations, CSF investigations, and those who died, we've also carried out post-mortem on all of them. With the blood investigations, we are fortunate to announce that it's not viral hemorrhagic fever, as people were suspecting. And then we also done CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, which shows that we've not identified any meningitis. So, from the post-mortem report and the findings, it was suggested that most probably we are dealing with one of the atypical bacteria, which, if it's epidemic, will be very serious. So, the decision is that we will start with a broad-spectrum antibiotics, that every student, every staff will be given these antibiotics, so that if it's any serious issue, then maybe the antibiotics will be able to cut the transmission. So they will take the treatment for a period of 3 days. After that, we will start intensive surveillance in the school. Already we have informed WHO, World Health Organization, and we are also in link with Noguchi and then other institutions to come and support us so we can address the issue. So after the treatment, because of the anxiety, most students and the parents will wish that they will take their children home. It's allowed, but we will have to do a lot of risk communication so that when they go home, the children will be safe and the community will be safe. Because if we are dealing with epidemics, it's likely that they may transmit the condition to their children at home or any member of the household. So that's what we are guiding against.
So it's not vaccination per se that we are doing?
No, at the moment, we are not doing vaccination. We are giving what we call chemoprophylaxis using azithromycin, which is a broad-spectrum antibiotic. And I believe that will cut the transmission. And then we will take our time and do further investigations. And hopefully, when we get the right diagnosis, we will give the right drug. But for the meantime, this drug that we are giving can cover, is what we call broad-spectrum antibiotics. It can cover all the bacterial infections.
Right, so we're going over now to Kumasi to speak with Ohiming Teria, who has been following the story for a while now. Hello, Ohiming. Now, what's the very latest on the situation at the Kumasi Academy? Hello, Ohiming, if you can hear me. What's the very latest on the situation at Kumasi Academy?
Yes, if I can hear you, sorry, Israel. And now the officials of the health directive, with the support of the World Health Organization, have started distributing the drug to students on campus. This will ensure that the students have the protection against the transmission of this particular condition on campus. And beyond this, that is where they will ask the students to go home after Thursday.
All right, so even though they say that it is not meningitis, they've ruled it out, they're still administering certain antibiotics, what exactly is that supposed to do for them?
Yes, according to the health officials, what they are administering is azithromycin antibiotics to the students. They say that this will treat bacterial infections. This is believed to have caused the death of the 4 students within 1 week at the Kumasi Academy school. And don't forget, it runs series of tests at Noguchi, and the tests include blood tests as well as spinal tests. But all these proved negative. But they have found out that almost every condition on campus, especially those involved these students, were caused by this bacteria. So they are doing what they call chemoprophylaxis, and that is when they are administering these antibiotics that they believe is a broad spectrum antibiotic, and it will be able to contain or fight most of these bacteria that cause this particular condition on campus. So they believe strongly that it will go a long way to improve the health of the students and also make them resistant so that they'll be able to stop the transmission of the condition among the students. So now every student, even those who have gone home, words have gone to them to come back to campus so that they take part in this particular exercise.
But then we hear that the school authorities have agreed eventually to let the students go on Thursday.
Sure. This decision was taken on campus after the parents earlier agitated to take their wards home. Don't forget, before the regional minister and his team, including the health officials and that of the education officials, arrived at Kumasi campus this morning, several parents had besieged the campus trying to take their wards home. But that particular action was also met with resistance. So it took the efforts of the police to bring the situation under control. And as we left the campus, several police officers were still providing security on campus. So the regional minister has said the police officers will continue to be there, so they are sure that security has been ensured, the maximum protection has been given to the students. So the students will be on campus until Thursday, after when the officials are done with the distribution of these azithromycin antibiotics to the students. And when they are done, it means, as the regional minister put it, the school will be closed indefinitely for the health officials to continue the surveillance on campus to run series of tests, after which they also extend to other parts of the Ashanti region so that they are able to control the spread of this, what they call difficult bacteria. They say it's very difficult to control. They are not even sure of the type of bacteria that is causing this infection, but they are sure it's a bacteria, so they will do everything within their power to bring it under control.
All right, thank you very much, Ohiming, to bringing us that update there on the situation at Kumasi Academy, where we're told that 4 students have so far died. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Still hiding the bulletin. Shraj has exonerated 2 deputy chiefs of staff accused of interfering in the management of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Stay tuned. Now, just as there are emergency lines you're able to reach for help, some schools of thought are proposing that the fight against corruption can be won if a helpline is created for victims to report cases of corruption. The comments come on the back of a recent study conducted by the NCC on the perception of the public on the state of corruption, public accountability and environmental governance in Ghana. Senior Research Fellow of the Institute of African Studies, Mercy Akrofi, and speaking on the sidelines of an NCC forum, further noted that the use of an anti-corruption helpline would deter citizens from engaging in the practice.
So we must find better or other mechanisms, of reporting, of victims reporting when they've been affected. And I propose one of them being that For instance, helpline numbers could be given. This is how emergency numbers for, for fire and, crime and all that. If people are educated, they know of these helplines numbers, when they fall victim to any corrupt practice, they could take the phone. Fortunately, these days, even whether people are literate or they are illiterate, they know how to manipulate the phone. Okay, so if they know these numbers, they can call and report such matters. In this case, the identity is covered. Nobody knows who, and these matters can be investigated and some solutions found. I believe that when people are afraid that I may be reported, they'll desist from some of these acts.
Well, the Commissioner on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has exonerated Deputy Chiefs of Staff Samuel Jinapo and Asenso Boache over allegations of corruption leveled against them by hip-life musician A+. A+ had claimed the two engaged in thievery when they intervened and stopped the Kolebu Teaching Hospital from terminating a revenue collection contract with Unibank. Despite the police exonerating the two, the Dynamic Youth Movement of Ghana petitioned Shraj to look into the matter, and it has now exonerated the two. Evans Mensah has a copy of the Shraj report and he joins me in the studio now. Hello, Evans.
Hello.
So, on what basis are these two, being exonerated by Shraj?
So Shraj went into the allegations and essentially did interviews with a host of individuals concerned, including an interview with the former CID boss, who herself got caught up in the allegations when it emerged that some recordings of her had surfaced secretly because he had had interactions with A+, who had originated all this. And they, after interviewing her, they also interviewed Samuel Jinapo. They interviewed Asenso, who is another deputy, one of the other deputy chief of staff. They also spoke to A+, by the way, to try and get to the bottom of what has happened. They came to the conclusion that A+ and the allegations were without merit. I want to quickly go to some of the interesting details that we're getting from this intercepted report that we didn't know before. For example, we learned in this report that one of the deputy chief of staff, Asenso Boache, had indicated that in fact it was the president who instructed that the CID investigate the Facebook allegations that A+ had put forward. Remember, that's where they started from, and then social media sort of gave the life. Apparently, from what we're learning, and this is confirmed by what we're hearing from what we're seeing and reading from the report, that it was the president who had, essentially the president instructed the Ghana Police Service to conduct an investigation into a Facebook post by Mr. Kwame Asari Obeng, aka A+. That's the first time we're getting to know this. But it's also interesting, one of the things we also learned, as part of the evidence Strat looked at, was a WhatsApp message that A+ had sent to the Deputy Chief of Staff, Asenso. And this goes to the question you asked about establishing whether there is some credibility in the allegations that had been put forward. And I want to read that part because it sort of opens a window into why the commission eventually came to the conclusion that the A+ wasn't a credible witness. In fact, it had an ulterior motive. Is the word, is the phrase they use here. And it says, in essence here, this is a
WhatsApp message.
This is a WhatsApp message. And this evidence
sent by
A+ to Asenso Boache.
Right.
Okay. And it says, the commission received a copy of a WhatsApp message sent by A+ to Mr. Francis Asenso Boache, Deputy Chief of Staff, dated Tuesday, 25th April 2017, which the latter attached to his comments. The message purportedly sent to Mr. Asenso Boache from A+ reads as follows, and it's in PG, but you will get the essence of what A+ was saying. He says, quote, "Now you be Deputy Chief of Staff, so when I spend precious time to drive my 6.3-liter engine to ask you to make a single call, you throw your weight about. Massa, I went to the man myself. You people think power is forever. Me, I no see any of you serve. You know what people went through for you to become Deputy Chief of Staff. Just phone call to, you are acting as if someone is asking you to kill Jesus. A bore, I for make you know." So in essence, this is what's a message sent to us on Subache. Now, the interpretation that the Shraj put on that is interesting. Shraj concludes when it came to the credibility of A+. And I want to read that because it's a very controversial bit that I'm pretty sure that A+, we haven't had a last of. It says here, the above excerpts show that there is a possible strained relationship between Mr. Kwame Asare obeying A+ and Mr. Asenso Boache. And this might have been extended to Mr. Ejinapo as well.
Okay.
That could possibly be the ulterior motive for the allegations that Mr. Asare are being leveled against the two deputy chiefs of staff. That, for me, is a very interesting conclusion for them to reach. But in essence, it says in conclusion, the findings, that the Criminal Investigation Department of Ghana Police Service has duly investigated and concluded the matter, which we knew before the investigation started, that in the circumstances of this particular case, the Commission, Shraj, can investigate, because they actually wanted to assess whether they had the authority to look into such a matter. They concluded that they did.
They can.
Now, they also go out to say that the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, which was the original controversy, by the way, people forget that the background to this was the allegation was made that the two deputies had intervened in some contractual issues between Korle Bu. Exactly. They conclude that the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital actually terminated its billing and revenue collection contract with Unibank. So that was terminated. And that the evidence does not support the allegations that Mr. Samuel Ejinapo and Francis Asenso Boache engaged in any corrupt practice and abuse of power when they severally requested the acting CEO of Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for clarity over the termination of the hospital's contract with Unibank. And finally, the Commission is therefore satisfied that the evidence does not support the allegations, and therefore, accordingly, this complaint is hereby dismissed as being without merit and totally unwarranted.
Okay, so as far as Shraj is concerned, this has been dismissed. You have spoken with John Jinapo.
Yes.
What has he had to say about it?
Well, as you can imagine, he's grateful to the Commission. Samuel Jinapo. He's grateful to the Commission for the work that they've done. I was curious because he raised the question about his reputation having been sullied in all this. And so I was curious whether, now that he's been cleared, he wanted to take further action. He says no, he's not interested in that. Or he needs this report for, to exonerate him and his reputation, essentially. But the petitioners, though, say, we generally intercepted it. They haven't received a copy yet, but they have received a call from Shraj that their copy is waiting at the reception, and they'll pick it up tomorrow, and they claim to hold a press conference to state their position.
All right. Thank you very much, Evans Spence. And as you indicated, we probably haven't heard the last of A+ yet, and he's likely to take to social media in a bit to let us know what he thinks. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Business News is next. Stay tuned.
Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining me on Business. Commissioner of Insurance Justice Yaufori is calling on the National Service Secretariat to provide further education to service personnel on the relevance of the proposed insurance cover for them. The National Service Secretariat has indicated the need for all service persons to have insurance cover. In an interview with Joy Business, Mr. Ofori says the insurance policy for them is laudable and that the Secretariat needs to educate personnel on related benefits.
We make sure the insurance companies have a free and fair playing level grounds, and we also make sure that the insured or the consumer is well protected. As I said, I don't have the product, but I read it on the, I got some feedback, and for me, what the policy is supposed to give, there are so many benefits, but we need to know the T's and the I's in it. Yeah.
But the service person, his concern or her concern is the fact that, look, this is an insurance policy. It is up to me to decide whether or not I need a cover. Yes, so that is their challenge, and they don't feel that the Secretariat has every right to impose this particular package on them. So what do you say about this?
Yeah, as I said, the product hasn't come to us for approval, but maybe, as I mentioned earlier, maybe some consultation needed to have been done with the service personnel for them to buy into it. If such consultation were not done, then it creates a lot of confusion You got me? So maybe if it's good for them, they think it's not good for them. But maybe if they are sat down with them and giving them the benefits that they would have had, they would have bought into it. I understand where you're coming from, that you haven't bought it, why are you selling it to me? That is an argument. But in societies too, we join associations and other things, and they have some policies. I mean, you go to a company where they have insurance covering somebody's wife and children. It's already there before you join the company, but you buy into it. So there's always a starting point. In most establishments, they have some kind of insurance, and these were established at the time when you were probably not employed. Or it's not everybody who is going to buy into. We should know that we all don't think alike. So definitely you have some people who would object to it. But at the end of the day, if it's good, you take it.
The Bank of Ghana is again cautioning the public that they deal with gold buying firm Men's Gold at their own risk, and that the central bank will not be liable in the event of any loss. This could be described as a final warning to clients, depositors and public on dealings with the gold buying firm. George Biaffe has more on the latest warning to Men's Gold and all the interest parties.
The Bank of Ghana in its latest public notice said that despite several warnings to Men's Gold, the company is still going ahead to take deposits from the public. The regulator even knows that Men's Gold has expanded its scope to cover the payment of dividend to its clients. The regulator argues that Men's Gold hasn't got the authority to undertake these activities because it has not been licensed according to the Banks and Special Deposit-Taking Institutions Act. Sources close to the Bank of Ghana have indicated this could be the final warning as it moves in to possibly sanction or shut down Men's Gold. The Bank of Ghana had earlier disclosed to Joy Business it could only deal with the institution after completing the required investigations on its operations. However, delays in taking action on Men's Gold hasn't gone down well with the public, but the regulator insists it needs to undertake all these groundwork before it can take that action. On warnings to the public, sources say this was meant to insulate or ensure that the Bank of Ghana would not be liable for any loss should there be a collapse or run on Men's Gold, so they wouldn't be called in to compensate its depositors and client. But the company at the center of all these controversies, Men's Gold, have denied these issues being raised by the Bank of Ghana, insisting that it is not taking deposits from the public.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says Ghana has the capacity to turn its capital market into a financial center on the African continent. Addressing industry players at this year's Capital Market Dinner and Awards organized by the Ghana Securities Industry Association in Accra, the Finance Minister expressed government's resolve to further strengthen the capital market. First Bank emerged the best investment bank for 2017. There's more in this report.
Ghana's capital market has evolved significantly since its inception many years ago. From a very humble beginning of less than 10 companies, for instance, on the stock exchange, the local bourse can now boast of 36 companies listed. The Capital Market Dinner and GSIA Awards is held annually to recognize the sterling performance of some players operating in the capital market. For 2017, 16 different categories of awards were given. Under the first awards category, some companies, including Gold Coast Securities, Data Bank Asset Management, CDH Securities Limited, and SAS, among others, were honored as founding members of the Ghana Securities Industry Awards. Deputy Director General of the Securities Exchange Commission, Paul Abebio, was happy the capital market has reflected the current state of the economy. He emphasized the need to enhance intermediation of the capital market and outlined some areas SEC will focus on next year.
The level of intermediation in our markets is actually quite low. I won't spend too much time on that, but I think in the course of next year, we'll be talking a lot about intermediation and how we enhance liquidity in our markets. So as our markets grow, there's the need to enhance the infrastructure, governance and regulations that guide operations and investors.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta was enthused about the significant gains made by Hong Kong's capital market and noted that Ghana has capacity to follow suit.
Our dream in a Ghana Beyond Aid is how do we create a global financial services center in Accra? How do corporate headquarters begin to locate their offices here. Hong Kong has about 7,000 multinationals in that small country operating as their key offices for the region. What is it that will make it possible for us? So yes, what is the potential? As the Deputy DG said, how do we want to get there, and what do we do now? I think we really need to dream big and believe that we can do it.
First Bank emerged the best investment bank of the year. The managing director shared his thoughts with Joy Business.
One of the things we do as an investment bank is that we lay so much emphasis on research. You realize that we also won gold in the research house division. So that is the main contributor to our performance as in the investment bank of the year.
Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta and CEO of GIPC, who all won awards, also expressed their thoughts.
The market started with some 11 shares on the stock market in November 1990, in which we participated. And today, as you see, it's over 30 companies. We trade both bonds. There's a second market. And really what I'm saying is that it can be a really solid platform for what we are planning in government to make Ghana the financial services center.
Ghana capital market is still young, but I can assure you that looking forward, it looks like it might play a bigger integral role to the economy than before. And this year particularly, there have been some issues, some debt issues that have gone through the capital markets. But on the equity side, we are yet to see some real depth coming up, and I suspect that it's going to come up pretty soon. The capital markets, I would probably say, actually got a footing in Ghana in 1990. And that's when the stock exchange came up. You had firms like Databank come up, SAS, those Merchant Bank, those NTHC, and since then there have been quite a number.
Despite significant gains of the capital market, it is yet to reflect the many opportunities of the economy. Real estate and technology are largely misrepresented.
And that's all in business tonight. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good evening.
The Commission of Inquiry for the Creation of New Regions will on December 11 begin engagement with residents from areas where requests have been made for the creation of new regions. The second group of petitions from the Northern region were the last to meet the Commission on Tuesday to wrap up the first phase of its activities. The Western, Volta, Brong-Ahafo and Northern region petitioners have already had their turn at the Commission. Speaking to journalists after Tuesday's hearing, Minister for Regional Reorganization Dan Kweku Botwe expressed optimism the Commission can conclude its work within the 6 months given them by the President. There's more in the following report.
The drumming and singing ushered into the Osu Castle conference room the overlord of Mampugri and his entourage. Nayiri Na Bohigu Abdullahi Mami Sheregu was joined by other sub-chiefs, political leaders, and opinion leaders from the area. Wulugu Naba Professor John Nabila, who is spokesperson for the petitioners, explained their case to the press.
We're demanding for a region named Northeastern Ghana. And you can agree with me that the northern region is very large. You cannot reach everywhere. And there are many areas in the north who can say that the people have not received any attention, more or less, from government. And regional development is a way of bringing government to the people, just like we've broken the country into districts and constituencies. Like manner, regionalism brings government to the people. And so we are asking now to have a region called Northeastern Ghana.
MP for Nalerugu Gambaga constituency Haji Alima Mahama, who is also local government minister, agreed with this position. She added the size of the region makes a strong case for a split.
Greater Accra. I mean, maybe even currently the petitioners today, their land size is bigger than the land size of Greater Accra, bigger than the land size of Upper East, bigger than the land size of Central Region, even bigger than the land size of Upper West. So we are just talking about the petitioners today. So if you split the London region into three, I don't think it's a big deal. Like I'm saying, at the end of the day, they are making their case.
Chairman of the Commission, Justice Stephen Brobe, announced the next line of activities for the Commission.
After today's hearing, the Commission will move to the regions for further consultation with the petitioners and members of the public. The regional hearing commenced in the Western region from the 11th of December 2017 to the 16th of December 2017. Dates for other regional hearings will be announced to the public later.
Minister for Regional Reorganization Damboche expressed hope the Commission can conclude its work within schedule.
In the CI, the President gave them 6 months to work, and it started from October. I know that for their program this year, they are going to Western Region, and that's up to 16th December, 11th to 16th. And then they will break for the Christmas recess. Then they will resume from January. So from January, they have to go to the rest of the 3 regions, and they should be able to finish and write their report by the end of the 6th month. So I can only hope that and I'm sure this interaction they've had here, but I've also given them, because these are the spokespersons for the petitioners, the chiefs and the opinion leaders. So maybe they will have a better insight as to the basis for their petition. And I want to believe that they'll be able to finish within the time.
Very soon.
In a related development, the Minister of Regional Reorganization and Development, Dan Kwekuboche, has hit back at those describing as needless propaganda the creation of new regions, insisting the initiative is not one being championed by government, as people have concluded. Though the creation of new regions was one of the campaign promises by both the NPP and NDC in their 2016 manifestos, he says it is a constitutional right citizens can request and not a campaign promise as perceived. Mr. Boche was speaking on the sidelines of a sensitization workshop on the creation of a new region out of the Western region.
Of inquiry. We are not involved in their work. For us, we are just explaining to you that they are coming here to do that. That's all. But they have 6 months starting from October 19th to present their report. So it's for them how they design their work, where they go, where they don't go. It's the commission. We have nothing to do with that. Ours is to create this awareness and to let people understand the whole process so that there will be the public understanding of it. That's all that we are doing. How the committee works. The number of people they will consult here is none of, we don't get it. It found expression in the manifesto. So nobody is running away from page 67. And page 72 and 73 of the NDC manifesto is also in it. They said they will create 5 regions. Emphatic.
Petitions, what's next? What is happening?
The report, no, after we received the report of the commission. Yes. So 6 petitions have petitioned. After their report, we don't know the number, the community they are going to make. If they recommend only one of the 6 petitions, 2, 3, up to 6, based on their recommendations, Mr. President, as the Constitution says, 5-4, he now has to refer it to the Electoral Commission. For the Electoral Commission to plan a referendum. Yes. So that will be the next stage after the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry.
Armed military officers Tuesday led a group of unidentified men and a woman to forcefully evict some occupants of a government flat here in Accra. The officers believed to be stationed at the Flagstaff House would not comment about the operation, but one of the occupants tells Joy News this is the 3rd time since May this year that some faceless persons have tried to evict them. There's more in the following report.
Let's see your permit. Let's see your permit. Verify. That's what you're Verify. Verify.
It's a 2-story building located a few meters away from the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. Abdullah Amin, An occupant who works with the Accountant General Department believes he's the target of the eviction. He told Joy News 7 armed military men stormed the flat at 2 a.m. Tuesday and threw him out of the room. His belongings were ransacked and thrown out of the room as well.
They've destroyed everything that I have.
Why are they doing all this to you?
I asked them why they were doing that, and they couldn't provide any evidence, except to say that they are coming from the Flagstaff house.
But how did you get this property? How long have you been living here?
I've been living here since 2013. I was given an allocation letter from the Ministry of Works and Housing.
Okay.
And that is why I'm here. And it's a government bungalow, and all government workers are entitled to. So as far as there's a vacancy, you enter there unless you are transferred or you die or you retire. And I'm not retired, I'm still in active service.
Okay, so what is happening now? Because I realize I've seen the military men and the one lady. I've seen a number of them here. What do they want now?
The lady in red is called Araba. She came this morning with the military, the dawn, at 1 a.m. with the military to break into my room. She's been here 3 times. And so there's some other military came and said they've been sent from the Flagstaff house to come and investigate the issue. So currently that is what is ongoing now. And my brothers who are here and trying to support me.
Okay, so where are you going at the moment?
Now, I reported they came in April, May, and did that. Threw out my things. I went to meet the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Frida Prempe, and she took my documents, looked at it, and said they were coming. They thought that I was not a government worker and that I was not paying. So she struck out my name from those that they were going to evict. And since then, I never heard from them. I've been paying up to date.
How much do you pay?
You pay 10% of your basic. Okay. And I have the documents to prove that. And then they came on Saturday at 1 a.m. again to throw out my things. I went to Adabraka police station, which is under our jurisdiction, to report. I met the police, the office commander, the station commander, just yesterday, and she said she was going to do her investigation. Only for this dawn, around 1 a.m. again, Grace came with another set of military and said they were coming from the Flagstaff house. And that they have the information that I'm not a government worker. And I've showed and proved that I'm a government worker, and I've told them my office. Now, I've had a call from Flagstaff House. The military who came here called their boss, and their boss called them, and he said I should speak with him. I spoke with the boss, and the boss said that the information he's having is that I'm not a government worker. And I told him that I'm a government worker. He has taken my details, my name, my office, and what I said I'm heading. He said he's going to call Controller Accountant General to find out.
But I realize they are still insisting they want to take you out of the apartment.
Yes, what happened when she just threw my things out, she went and brought somebody again. She went and brought somebody to come and occupy. The person brought the bags and then the bed to come and stay inside.
Attempts to reach the Deputy Minister of Works and Housing has been unsuccessful, but the case has meanwhile been reported at the Adabraka police station.
This is Joy News Prime.
Now, former presidential spokesperson and Deputy General Secretary of the opposition NDC, Koku Anyidoho, says there were attempts to, quote, bury him alive, unquote, after the death of his former boss, John Attermills. The usually outspoken politician said he has stomached a lot, especially from elements within his own party. He has been speaking with my colleague Gifty and Apia in this exclusive interview.
Let me just say, I've stomached a lot, and I just pray to God that I never blow up.
What do you mean if you say you have stomached a lot?
The intrigues, the scheming, the machinations, I have stomached a lot, but after 5 years of the passing away of President Mills, I know that I won't, because the attempt to cut one off, not because you are lazy, not because you are inefficient, but only because you are loyal to the president.
Some people thought that you were actually power drunk.
How?
Maybe from the way you spoke.
And I'm saying that I spoke only out of conviction and from knowledge, a position of knowledge.
And maybe the kinds of words you use.
What words? What you tell me?
Maybe I may not have a list of those words.
So it means that if I actually use certain words, it would have stuck in your mind, on your mind by now. There's nothing. It's just look, and let me use this opportunity. Maybe I'll use this opportunity. Then after the death of President Mills, all the attempt to bury me with him, with some vile propaganda that I used to disrespect Vice President Mahama when he was Vice President. I used to prevent him from seeing the president.
Having access to the president.
Gifty, there's a dedicated corridor that links the vice president's office to the president's office. So did I have some magic potion to always know that the vice president was moving to the president's place? So I went, put a police barrier and prevent him from seeing his
Maybe
boss.
not physically, but when there are certain things that have to be done. Why do you think people say?
How was it going to happen?
But why do you think people say that?
That's what I'm saying. This is part. It is President Koku was loyal to President Mills, and like you are saying, he was that close to power. President Mills is gone. Why should he be close to power again? Let's cut him off. After all, what?
So there was an attempt to cut you off completely.
Bury him alive. And I say, why? We know them, but it doesn't worry me. What will make me hold the vice president's shirt? And I'm hoping that one day I'll have a one-on-one with him, and we can have this chat and know that between the two of us, we can dispel it.
So it's been 5 years now. You still haven't had a one-on-one chat with him?
No.
Why so?
I don't know.
Did you approach him? Did you try?
I'm saying that, all I'm saying is that the vile propaganda to create the wrong impression.
But did you try to dispel this notion?
There's always an opportune time.
It's not
like
yet.
I'm having today.
The opportune time is not yet.
I'm not going to hold a press conference actually, but moments like these will provide the opportunity for us to for me to tell my side of the story.
Do you know if
I have suffered a lot of pain? I will not worry about that.
Speaking on governance by the NPP since January, he said the Kufuor-led administration is creating more problems in its attempt to implement policies in a rush. While he describes Education Minister Matthew Poku-Prempeh as a personification of arrogance, he says the NPP has replaced schools under trees with sleeping and eating under trees.
Governance is not an alligator race. They are failing in the speed and the rush with which they are attempting to implement all their policies overnight. How do you do that? We are seeing footages and on Joy News, Joy Midday News, on radio, on television. We hear the features, we see the clips. Children are suffering. They are sleeping in the open. When we were busy eliminating schools under trees, they are now introducing eating and feeding under trees. Now we are we're talking about arrogance. You want to look for arrogance, go and look for Napoleon, whatever his name is, Matthew Poku-Prempeh. And he has the effrontery and the audacity to be insulting, is what, Nana Poku?
Nana Poku, yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
So that's his house name.
You think he's arrogant?
Oh yeah? You are looking for a personification of arrogance? Go look for Napu. He has the effrontery to be insulting Professor J. Nano Poku-Ajima. After all the hard work that we did, if nothing at all, we shall credit her and the Jamama administration for the hefty infrastructure in the by way of the community-based secondary schools.
Do you see anything good in the NPP administration so far?
What I see good is that God is making us see them for who they are.
So essentially a year. It's been a year on of the NPP administration. You don't see anything good?
Invisible forces, Delta forces, crime on the loose.
You don't see anything good? There's nothing you can say, pinpoint and say, well, this is good at least. Nothing.
I may need some eye drop to clear something off my eye to see something good about this government.
The Tamale Metro Assembly landfill site at Gbalahi is said to be drawing school children out of the classrooms and directly impacting enrollment at the Gbalahi Methodist Primary School. Most children in the 5 communities within the electoral area are said to have abandoned school to scavenge on the landfill. Correspondent Martina Bulgari reports children as young as 4 years spend hours on the landfill.
The Gbalahi landfill site receives about 150 tons of garbage each day, which forms the attraction for these children. The children scavenge through the garbage for whatever can be sold as scrap. Assemblyman for the area, Al-Hassan Saidu, said he believes about 40% of pupils have dropped out of school.
In fact, it's very, very pathetic that our children have stopped going. Some of our school children have stopped going to school because of the dumping site, which is located at Gbalahi. And it's very, very bad because tomorrow we don't know where they are going to be. Of 100%, I think 40% is the number that has just stopped going to school and then just going to the dumping site for the scraps.
Mr. Seidu said several children in the area have sustained various injuries because of the time they spent on the landfill site.
Or they are having a seriously injuries because some of our women living in market normally dump the hot hashes in the Zoom Lion containers. And when they also went and dump it at the site, the whole site is going to be at fire. And then when the children went there, some of them may not know that this place is fire. So because he or she realized, he will dump, he will even walk into the fire, and some of the body will be burnt. So that is the seriously injuries that, and then the metals or the bottles that is always dumping, the cutting some of their bodies.
So they don't wear sandals to school.
They don't even wear their shoes to the site. So because of that, metals or the bottles are always cutting them.
Head teacher of the Gbalahe Methodist Primary, Abdullahi Zakaria, confirmed school enrollment had dropped. He said some of the pupils know the time trucks with waste from posh areas in the Tamale metropolis arrive, and when the time comes, they sneak out of school.
What I want to suggest is, I want to appeal to the government and maybe the landfill authorities. If something could have been done about the landfill side, if they could have relocated to a different place. Because the presence of landfill side are closer to the community is affecting the children enrolling in the school. Almost every day, most of the children find themselves at the landfill sites at the expense of school. Some of them, when they come through in the morning, some don't even wear, they don't wear sandals, some wear slippers. When you ask, they say they have cats on their legs. When you follow them, the result is that they went to landfill site and they have cats on their legs. That's affecting them. They cannot wear sandals to school. So it's affecting our teaching and learning. Affecting the children through.
Political pressure group Concerned Voters Movement is accusing the Ghana Police Service of sole sourcing the pilot of its initiative to migrate police stations onto a paperless platform. The e-policing project is currently being piloted by partner ICT firms VAS Intel and Stratcom, incorporated in selected police stations in Tema and Accra. President of the group, Razak Kojo Opoku, tells News the police service failed to do due diligence by denying other ICT firms the opportunity to showcase the technology they have.
When we contacted the police, the VAS Intel, with their partner Stratcom, did it for free for the Ghana Police Service because it was a piloting in 26 police stations in Tema and Accra. But the question we asked them was that, so after everything is done, after the piloting has become successful, they are going to roll it out nationally. So are they now going to open up tender for other ICT companies to also come and demonstrate what they can offer in terms of whether their technology is even superior than the technology that VAS Intel and Stratcom is using? If they are going to do it that way, they have, in the first place, created an advantage for Kwajo Graham's VAS Intel and his partner Stratcom against the other companies, because they were not having an opportunity to also pilot their technology in other police stations. So we are not going to have fair competition and value for money. As a public entity, we should have still gone ahead and advertised to the general public that this is our need as far as our electronic policing or e-policing piloting is concerned, so that they could have also come on board and do so. But if you do all these things at the blind side of the whole nation, it's a conflict of interest.
Intends to petition the Interior and Procurement Ministries on how the two partner firms were contracted, arguing the process breaches procurement laws.
Ghana Police Council and the Minister of Interior, that is the supervisory ministry. This also has to do with national security. So we also petition the National Security Ministry and also the Procurement Minister and the Public Procurement Authority, because when we did the cross-check there, the police didn't consult them. And also, we also did a cross-check at Ghana Protection Commission. They were also not consulted. And even the Stratcom, that their partner company is based in US. When we did the research at Register General Department, It has not been registered here locally to demonstrate that they have a consortium or a joint venture agreement with their local partner, which is Vast Intel.
Well, a television piece on post-harvest losses produced by journalist Justice Baidu on Monday night won Best Video Story by the Thomson Reuters Foundation in the maiden edition of the Food Sustainability Media Award held in Milan, Italy. The award, which comes with a €10,000 prize money, saw journalists from the BBC, New York Times and Washington Post sending in entries. The ceremony forms part of the 8th International Conference on Food and Nutrition organized by the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition, and Justice Baidu, as part of the prize, would benefit from series of training by the Foundation in Development Journalism. Right, yeah. So here is the piece that won the award.
This is the road that leads to Amankwa Krom. It's a small farming town of about 500 people in the Techima North district of the Brong-Ahafo region. This 5-kilometer stretch is one of many things standing between farmers here and the market. 70-year-old Joyce Farr is one of those farmers. Her 5-acre cassava farm was ready for harvest months ago. She's unable to harvest because no car can come here to convey them.
The road is deplorable. Look at me. I'm old and weak. We can't do anything about the road. It's government's responsibility. During the dry season, cars use the road. But when it rains, no car can come here. We can't harvest. And when you do, you lose everything.
Huge amounts of food like this heap of cassava here continues to go waste in many parts of Ghana. And yet, this is a country where nearly 1.6 million people are at risk of hunger and malnutrition. And in many cases, like it is here in Amankwa Krom, it's usually because there's no way to move this from the farm gates to the market where they are most needed. And this is one of the places where cassava from villages like Amankwa Krom are needed. A Gari processing factory just miles away, employing close to 200 women. But work here is slowing to a halt because they just can't get cassava supply.
We can't get cassava due to bad weather. And when it rains and we get good harvest, the cars can't convey them here because of the roads. This factory employs many people, but it is almost empty now. We can do more with a good supply.
The tragedy of post-harvest losses in Ghana is not just with the food that is wasted, but also with the economic opportunities on the agricultural value chain that this country will never realize. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Amankwa Krom in the Brong-Ahafo region.
And in the headlines, authorities have finally agreed to shut down Kumasi Academy after the death of a fourth student on Tuesday from what is believed to be cerebrospinal meningitis, even though an autopsy report has ruled that out. Anxious parents and guardians besieged the school on Tuesday to withdraw the award, but they were not allowed to do so. Outrage has exonerated 2 deputy chiefs of staff accused of interfering in the management of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And there's a proposal for a helpline to be created so whistleblowers can report corruption. In business, the Insurance Commissioner is supporting the mandatory insurance cover for service personnel and is calling on the National Service Secretariat to provide further education to showcase the numerous associated benefits.